Boom! Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, and wherever you may be. I'm sorry about that. I just kind of know it. Somebody bumped against my wall here on the opposite side. Anyway, it's me, Samuel Davis III, and I am here with another episode of Bridge Visions, and we are bringing it to you a little different today. I'm a little rushed. I am, as we may have mentioned, and we may have spoken in the past. Got some things going on in my house. Got construction. I got my in-laws living with me. I got contractors running around. I got people asking me for invoices and receipts and checks and all kinds of things. And today, as I'm running around, I'm saying to myself, what makes a leader? What is a leader? What is it that makes you the leader in your household? Do you think sometimes that being a leader is just throwing out money, telling people what to do? Is that how you look at being a leader? Because for me personally, being a leader comes from the heart. I've been in the military, I've been in law enforcement. I've seen a lot of people who are only who are only motivated to lead if there's a financial gain.
Mm.
Now, some people that I know, they look at it not necessarily for a financial. There are some people, and I'm not going to bust on some people in the church, but a lot of church folks I know, that's a power position. When you got control of a large organization like Joel Osteen does, he only speaks and talks about the positive things, so they say. I'm not going to sit back and denigrate anything that he's done because I think he's helped a lot of people. But some people look at him as a leader. I think back, and the reason why I'm bringing him up is there was a flood back in Texas, and I remember people are looking for housing. He has this big facility that can hold thousands upon thousands of people, and they said, "Hey, Joe, can we use your church?" And Joe said, "No, I'm not gonna get my carpets dirty. Pay thousands and thousands of dollars just to get my carpets replaced." And I said to myself, now, is that a leader? Is that a community leader? What is a leader? I've stuck in those positions where I started out as an airman and I recognized that the my supervisor who had been in the military a couple of years more than me, he just was he didn't even want to do the job. He was just there temporarily and he was just there for for another year. That was the assignment that he had, and he actually deferred things to me, which I thought was cool. It gave me the opportunity to test myself and my leadership ability. So, my question that I want to ask the group today: what is a leader? And have you ever had an opportunity to be a leader and you decided that I don't want to do it, and it really was your position to do it, and you really had to stand up to it? And I'm just curious, what is a leader, and how have you handled a leadership position that you didn't really have to deal with? And that's what I want to bring up today. As I bring in my guys here today, I'm going to remove myself from this solo layout and I'm bringing in my guys, Benji and Dave. Talk to me. Tell me something. Another thing, if you ever want to say anything, Dave or Benji, if I'm running too long or you have something to say and you're on camera, just raise your finger up. And like we do in church, the old church lady goes, "Excuse me," raise your finger up, we'll get you right in to speak. So go ahead. Who wants to jump in first and answer what as a leader?
Hmm. Well, a leader. Okay, I'll bite. Um, there's to me there's not just leader is not one definition. You got more than one positionality, and since I would say all of us are more or less religious or spiritual or esoteric. All of us are philosophical. Then let's look at it from two different perspectives. There could be three, four, or five, but let's just break it down to two, and that's morals and ethics. If
Mm-hmm.
you're an ethical leader, you're going to be Joel Osteen. You're going to worry about your carpets because you got to get that cleaned, and you're the boss, and you've got to do the bottom line, and you're not going to let anything happen to the organizational structure because ethically you've got to keep that structure running in order for the resources to keep coming in. As opposed to a leader who is moral, and there's no thought to the structure, there's no thought to personal gain or loss. There's only what's right for all of the people. So I would say a leader is someone who is inclusive and who is moral. Because if that's the case, you're going to get a positive solution. If you're an ethical leader, then you're going to be stuck in the power structure and story of that organization. They'll give you a rule book, and they'll give you a list of enemies, and you got to take your shoes off, or you got to put your shoes on, or you can't come in when, you can't bring these people in, and you can only bring these people in. And that to me is ethical. That's a cultural norm, and that's not good or bad. It just is. That's just how people are. It's like having a men's club or a women's club. Guys just don't really belong in a women's club, So I think morality and ethics would be the two ways to determine what kind of leader are you. Are you an ethical leader? And neither one of them is wrong or right. They both serve a purpose, and they both have a place to be used. In the business world, an ethical leader is what you want, because he's going to be concerned with bottom line all the way up to the top, and he's going to make sure all the resources are preserved, the investors are taken care of, the people are acting properly according to what keeps the order in the church, or in the business, or in the organization, whatever is necessary to keep the order intact, so that the rules of engagement are kept intact, so the most people can be a part of it. But I think morality is where I would like to see more morality in leadership, as opposed to more forensic accountants.
Okay. Now, before you get going on that, Benji, before we jump in and put you in there, I want to ask, because Dave, you brought these morality. That's big, and I say morality when you mention that, because that comes from experience. So at what point in time did you get that experience to be able to say exactly what you just said? Because you got to break a lot of eggs to get that kind of experience. You got to go through a couple of I'm gonna take out the back corner and beat you up. You gotta go through some stuff to get that kind of a perspective. So how long did it take you to gain that perspective, and how old were you when you got that perspective? Before we go to Benji.
Well, I'd say consciously knowing it. Let's see. I'm 74 right now. I would say possibly a year ago.
Whoa!
Up to that point, I was the ethical leader. I was a good CEO. I was a good put me in charge, because I could handle it. I could take step by step. I could keep the peace with all my people. And I've been in several leadership positions throughout my life. But what got me to the morality side of it was noticing the weakness in myself that required me to be in charge, the weakness in me that made me feel like I was superior enough to handle the job. And that's not the job. The job isn't to be superior. The job is to be effective. And you can be a really effective ethical leader, and you can be a really effective moral leader. The morality side of it came into me pretty much when my dad died. I'd been toying with the idea for 6 months, but when my father passed, I'm the eldest. And so the leadership position falls on me, but I didn't want it. Going back to what you initially said, I didn't want that positionality, because first of all, my siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, were of a completely different political and religious persuasion than I was. And I did not want, I figured, morally speaking, I'm not the right guy to lead this, because these 3 right here, they agree. Me, I'm odd man out. I can exercise my authority and my ability to be ethically correct and to make this thing work all the way through, or I can cede my position and do the morally correct thing, which is to let them take the lead and to handle it, because their rules and their engagement and their politics and religion dictated that it be done a certain way. And I was not of that persuasion. I was definitely outside of the, I would just piss everybody off. And so that's when it suddenly dawned on me. Then I started thinking about it, morality and ethics. I went, well, did you do the right thing? Because my dad would have slapped me upside the head and said, what are you doing, boy? You're the firstborn. You're supposed to take this, you know. And anyway, that's where I would say, yeah. So it's this year, but I've been toying with it unconsciously. I've known that since my late teens and my early 20s.
Wow. Okay. So before you jump into the answer, Benji, I want you to think about what he said. An effective leader. Now, you have a unique experience because of where you come from and ethnically how you were raised, and then coming to be in Texas, in the land of the big dollar, the land of the 25-ounce steaks and all of that mess. So tell me, what is an effective leader for you?
I think that's a little different. What you describing is an effective manager, right? For me, a leader's got to be more inspired, and a leader's got to be the second banana. I mean, he didn't take the glory, but he take the punishment. That's the leader. Think of Magic Johnson. Think of Kobe. Think of like LeBron. Think of Michael Jordan. Right? They all are a great leader. What did they do? They make their person around them better. That's the leadership, man. So then there's people like the coaches, right? Like what's that coach for the Bull, right? So same thing. He lead differently. So for me personally, though, ethically and all that, that's just like I said. Neither you lead from from the front or from the back. Most of us was taught to lead from the front, which to me doesn't do as well because you never teach your people around you to fish. So when I ran my company and stuff, I drag everybody to the finish line because I could. I was strong, I was fast. So the problem is now is like this is why I have all the stress and all that stuff, right? So think about what he knows I'm talking about. Now, yeah. So think
I'm
about
sorry
now.
about that.
Yeah, but he's right. But think about this. But think about this. If you look at a natural like the animal, the wolf, where's the leader of the wolf pack? He's the one behind. He's the strongest one. You know who's in the front? The weakest one. Who's in the middle? The female and the children. His job is to get the pack to the finish line. That is to me a leadership. Now, Joe Olson, I'm with him completely. I like what he's saying so far. What he did was a caution choice to take care of his people, not the people in Houston, right? So I remember that very vividly,
Yeah,
right?
me
I
too.
remember that very vividly. Like, what do you mean? It's like things like this. But that's the thing that he 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 was like he's not a leader in a sense. The people around him is the leader. The one he is like he is the show, right? Because
Yeah.
he had the showmanship, right? I get that. I was that way too. They used me to be the showmanship, and I was. So he had to learn, and he had to absorb that, and that's his lesson. And that was a tough one for everybody because we all got impacted by that. So that's to me is the leadership. Now, corporate America, like everybody is now, this is back to the thing that we talked about. Corporate America now is like now transitioned to all the other, like it was the Chinese and Japanese, like now is the Indian national and so forth. Every one of these nation came is their first time that actually been that much success. Every time,
Mm,
what we call is first fame. That is the toughest thing. I went through the first fame too. It was hard because you were always focused on the material and you didn't care about the people, right? You didn't care about sacrificing the lamb, which is later you learn it's not worth it. It's not worth, like, everybody has value. If you did not bring the best in them, and that's your fault, right? So in the military, you guys know this. There was a saying my stepdad used to say, "There's no such thing as a bad crew, just bad leaders." And I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally get that now. Because if I didn't step up and coach him up, that's my job. Because especially now, I'm older. right? I'm more wiser, I'm stronger. So these are things I've learned, right? So, but can I take a secondary position to let them shine? That's also a leadership. Now, that's the thing that's tough. So those are things for me is a true leadership. Is and I
Mm,
right now for my personal life, I'm launching all these new companies and things like that. I want to be that wolf in the back, making sure my team, my whole team, get to the finish line.
mm.
That's a moral position, Benji. That's what I was talking about.
Hmm.
A
Yeah,
leader is in the back, and I agree with you.
yeah,
Little note from a sound guy.
yeah.
You're doing some heavy breathing in your mic. You might want to move it off your face
Okay,
just a tad. Yeah.
okay, cool.
Anyway,
Better.
I totally agree with your analogy. That was a great analogy.
Mm. So well, let me ask you this, Benji, because I threw it out at first because I I have not seen your work. I don't know what you do business wise, but we've talked about business aspects and things that you've done and how you relax and things like that. Again, that's why I threw it out initially was ethnically. You came to the United States, and I know you didn't have this eye of the tiger that you got now. And I know you went through some harrowing experiences. And I don't know what they are, but I know a guy coming from an Asian guy coming to Texas,
Hmm.
pointing people out, correcting people, making changes, moving, being a mover and a shaker in your community, in your area, in your field.
Hmm.
Where and how did you get that? And who taught you?
It's the same. It's the same story. Uh, just the same one. That little boy, that little Benji, was proving his point that I'm good enough to his mother, right? So no
Mm,
matter what
there you
hit
go.
me, no matter what hit me, it was not worse than my mother hitting me, not physically but
Uh,
verbally,
I
right?
understand that.
You,
Yeah.
you, I don't care how big, how manly you are, you got nothing, man. My mother say to me, "You're born a peasant, you're gonna stay a peasant." Let me tell you, that right there, that was my drive.
But see, that was something you had to overcome for sure. And that
Oh, yeah.
Whew.
right there, that lesson to overcome someone telling you you were less than,
Mhm,
that is huge. I mean, that's a
Mm,
huge thing. If you believe, if you can erase the training before that that made you accept the fact that you were less than,
mhm.
you got that lesson, man. And that's why you're a good leader now. It's because you got the
mm,
lesson. You understand that. That's beautiful, man. Beautiful.
A-
mm,
And it took the landmark fall to make me realize that was actually a gift from her to me. So that
Absolutely.
mm,
in order for me to get to where I'm at, because I'm responsible for
Beautiful.
more than just me, and I took on that responsibility because of that statement right there. I remember that so hard and vividly in West Texas, right? Because if especially in West Texas, they want you to reform, you know, and I
mm,
wasn't. I was always been an independent thinker. The reason I came to the United States because I knew if I was staying in Asia, I would have been in jail dead by now because I will not restrain my opinion. Right now, I'm not bluntly offensive, but I'll say what I said, and I'm not backing off. I'm not, but I'm not going to be loud about it. So how do I influence these big people and so forth? I consistently say the same thing over and over again, and I act the same thing over and over again. And if they get it, great. If they don't, I move on very quickly. Those are the
Yeah.
things. And so the different think of Magic Johnson, think of LeBron, and think of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was fierce. He was like this in his face. I won't do that. You know. Now I'm more like Magic or LeBron, where that you know what I'll settle for here. Losing is okay for now, but ultimately I will win. I will wait and win. Because at the
mm,
end of the day, that's my personality. Now, Michael Jordan didn't want that. He never lost. For me, look where he is now in his life. You know, you see the story about how mean he was. His teammate really scared of him. Man, I didn't want that.
mm,
I want them to respect me for sure. But also, one of the things that allow me is to grow as a person was allow me to be that leadership for them, right? And these are things, and all the biggest thing for me is to learn to ask their help because I took on so much. And Sam, you know this. I'm a little dude. I'm like 5'4", like 130, right? 135 maybe, right? And now I'm shorter because I'm older, right? I'm like, okay, great. But the whole point is I took on a load of responsibility, and yet I'm still here and I'm still
Mm.
growing. Is it easy? No, but it's never supposed to be. Growing is always going to be difficult. But that was my challenge. In my younger days, this is back to the first fame thing. My goal, my thing was all about commerce, about material, all that. I hurt people and things like that. I
Mm.
regret every moment of that. But it's a life lesson I got to go through. And they were my lesson that I'm thankful that I've learned quicker.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because you has your style of leadership, has it changed?
Yeah.
Like when you first started, and do you find yourself switching between the styles, or do you, now that you're established, do you come in and, like, what we call, I'm trying to remember, when I was in school, they call it a Sherman tank. You just come in just shooting, boom, 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 boom. Are you that guy all the time, or have you learned to temper it off? Or in your career field, is that something that is necessary?
Yeah, they want me to do that aggressive stuff. I won't do that. I'm a counterpuncher now because
Hmm.
because I have not been knocked out yet. So I've been hit hard. Like, you know what? Until you knock me out, you got nothing. And I've been doing this for 39 years. So
Hmm.
so I'll wait until you get tired. I'll wait till you talk yourself out,
That's the way, Benji. That's the
and
way.
and then I counter. And so these are things people always like. Why don't you want to attack? Because I'm waiting for you. I want to see what you're made of.
Mhm.
Attacking is easy. Can you
That's
take?
the hard part. The
Yeah,
hard part is having the patience to allow someone to grow.
yeah,
The hard,
yeah,
the really hard part for me is when someone refuses to grow because they're stuck in a
yeah,
story and
yeah,
Hmm.
they can't move. And
yeah,
then you as a leader, then you have to make a moral decision
yeah,
about their place in the company, no matter how valuable they are to the company.
yeah,
That's a decision that's tough for all leaders.
yeah.
So is it something that you would change that person, or you put them to the side and say, "I'll get to that later," or "I'll handle that problem later," and you keep on moving ahead, or do you fix the guy? What do you do, Dave, with that?
I don't fix anybody. I think it's morally corrupt to try to force someone to be something they're not. So if I have a collaborator, because I do a lot of collaborations with different artists, if I find someone that I I'm well, we have an obvious clash. Let's say there's a leadership style, because I have a tendency to deal with leaders. I have my own thing, and I deal with other people who are in charge of other people most of the time. They're leaders of bands, they're leaders of other studios, they're whatever. So it's a peer to peer mostly. In that regard, you can't change them because they've already got their style. And if that's the case, then you have to remove yourself from their story. But that's my business. In life, I don't change anybody, not my kids, not my mate, not my friends. I don't have a sense that I have to fix anybody or anything. We're all on our own journey. And if we can't come to a reasonable understanding, um, right now as two adults, we don't have to agree. That's the thing where we get hung up, is we think that we have to agree. We don't have to agree, but we don't have to be rude, and we don't have to blow up a perfectly good business because we have a contentious point about something. But we do have to iron out the differences. And so my way of dealing with someone, I have not taken on jobs because I knew it was going to be a problem from the headache. There was a
Mhm.
headache from the beginning, and it's going to be a headache at the end, and they're never going to be happy with what I did. And that's a headache, no matter how much money they want to pay me. It's like, no, I can see this as a problem. But I also will do things for people where I don't charge them any money because they're broken. They can't feed themselves
Mhm.
and they need help, and I can give them the help. I will be that person that'll step in and say, here's your demo tape. Go get hired. and
Mhm.
and that's good. But I know Benji's the same way. I can tell from it, his continence. The man wants to help everybody. He's got a heart bigger than my head. So I think probably this is a good conversation for me to listen to, because I'm just now getting a handle on the morality of life.
Yeah,
I've
Mhm.
I've always been, rules are for their suggestions.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
And I have broken many, and I have done a lot of
yeah,
things that would not be considered kosher, and it's a wonder I'm not dead, maimed, or in jail. So now I'm spending a whole lot of time listening to other people who are maybe old, not older, but wiser because of other hard knocks that they've experienced. And usually, when you're of a different culture than a white boy, you already get the hard knocks because the white boys are assholes mostly to other cultures. And if we aren't kind to each other because of the way we look, we got a serious problem because the world's too crowded. We can't do that. We have to deal with people. We all bleed the same color. It's like we're all humans, and if we can deal with it on a moral human basis, I can see how we can all fix this. But we can't fix each other. It's up to the individual to fix themselves, and that's how I handle it. If I can't get along with someone, I don't hate them, I don't denigrate them, I don't insult them. I just quietly remove myself as the problem, and I move on. And I don't take me as the problem personally. I just see that they need something that I can't provide. Be like someone asking me to be a brain surgeon. I'm not a brain surgeon. I won't take the job.
So let me ask you this, and I'm going to have you respond as well too, Benji. Is there a point where you recommend something to them? Maybe he's not a leader, but I tell you what, there's this program that I went to, and it took me 3 weeks to get through it. I think you should take that course. Do you recommend something like that to a guy? Do you recommend based upon what you see, based on your previous experiences with someone else that you know? Hey, maybe you have ADHD. Maybe you should get checked out for that. Or have you ever found yourself in a situation where in a leadership position, you saw that person's weakness, you didn't have time to tell them right away. Did you approach them later on and say, you might want to get this checked out?
Well, that absolutely is the right thing. I would say earlier when I was in more corporate situations and I was dealing with more structured business CEO type stuff, manager stuff, I would never dress someone down in front of the whole crew. I would always do it later. I would always take them aside and say, well, what's chewing on your, whatever you had to do. But no, I do not anymore. I do not recommend anyone do. I don't think I'm experienced or wise enough to tell someone how to fix themselves. I think that's an arrogant posture, or maybe a sympathetic gesture at best, where you're trying to help, but you really don't know. We don't know the other people. We just, there's no way you can know who they are and what they've been through and what they're going through now. So to recommend some, I can say, you know what, you're weak in this area and you might want to get more skills doing this. Yes, I will help people improve based on what I can see there, but I'm not going to get into people's psychology or their religion or their politics. I'm not. To me, that's a dead end street that just results in anger and hard feelings. And I think we got enough of that on the planet without exacerbating it by trying to fix somebody that doesn't want to be fixed. If someone asks for your help, that's different. That's totally different. Then you absolutely, this is how I do it. Can I help you? Here's my resources. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Benji, go ahead.
Simply, this is like the old, back to the Chicago Bull, Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan story. Michael Jordan is definitely not a Zen guy, but Phil Jackson is. He always gives Michael Jackson books to read. That's what I do. What they do with it is up to them. I just gave one to my adopted daughter, and I gave it to her in November, and for her birthday, and I finally got time to read it. It's timing. When they're ready, they'll be there, right? So all the book that you read, all the book that I read was given to me when I was young. But when I reread it, it's different now. It's the same book, right? So it's different in everybody. But back to what Dave's mentioned, when they're ready, I have to be ready. When Brooklyn and Zach is ready to go to their to heal their wound from their mother,
you have to be there for them when that's.
I'll be there. I told them that. I said, I'm ready for you whenever you're ready. But until then, do what you have to do. But we know that you've been scarred. We know this because that's why you and I, you in my life, because I've been through that. So when you're ready, I'll be ready for you. That is my whole thing. and that come back to the full circle. That's being a good leader. You gotta learn to prepare. You're gonna prepare for all those things that come. You know,
Yeah.
so that's part of it.
So my question to you, Benji, what age do you think it was that before you gained this knowledge that you just threw out at us right now? What age were you? Dave just said he just hell, that was just last year. Dave got it.
I
I'm a
know, right?
All of what it is. You're younger than Dave. Now,
Uh,
you tell me when did it hit you where you felt that, guys were coming to you, you felt guys coming up to you and asking you questions and you felt that you were always, I hate to use the term, but I'll just say it, when you felt you were the alpha and they were coming up to you. You got a bunch of betas and Charlies coming up to you, asking you questions. When did that hit you?
I mean, I always had people asking me, right? Because they always ask me about my drive, because I have that enormous drive, right? And so, but at the time, I was just too young to be able to kind of like explain to them what is that, how you
Yeah.
turn that lesson in life into that fire that burns you. I just didn't have the skill set and life experience to explain. Probably in my like maybe like in my late, early 40s, mid 40s, 42, 43, 44. That's when it hit. That's when it's like, okay, at that point, I'm selling into my body. I was at the age where that I was fast and strong at the same time, right? Physically, and
Right.
emotionally, I was fairly like extremely focused, right? And I had some success and failure, and so I knew that all the heartache I went through, I'm still here, and I was still happy, right? And so I knew I had something, but I didn't know completely what that circle was going to be. But because there was a conflict within me, was like I always thought that I wanted freedom, but really what I want is continuous growth. So when I put myself in a barrier that I can't be free, it allowed me to grow even further, right? So that's the hard thing. So if you think about when you know, like when you plant a seed, it get into the ground, the formation, like being, formed into a tree, that part of formation or whatever you call it, that thing, like when it's sprouting,
Mm-hmm.
that take a lot of effort. So I was in the mud for a while after that, you know. So I was, because the seed is in the ground with no sun, but it got water, and I had to push myself to the sun, and that was like in my 40s. I went, okay, I can do this, and everybody following me always asked me, how did you push through? That was the question, you know.
You can't teach an indomitable spirit.
Yeah,
You're
and then,
either going to do it or you're going to be a follower.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Dave, was there ever a time in your life when you were a follower?
Maybe when I was 3 or 4. My grandmother, my grandmother was an Appalachia. Um, she was, what would that be? She'd be half Piankashaw Indian and half white girl, and she lived out in the middle of nowhere, and she understood plants to no end. That she could heal you with plants, and she
Yeah.
fascinated me. She was a witch woman, and my relatives back east are dyed in the wool hillbillies. These are the people that I could not introduce you to. If I did, they would insult you to my face, and I can't allow that with my friends. So I just
Yeah.
removed myself from that part of the country because the
Mm-hmm.
people, I was too ingrained in the culture, and I came from rough beginnings, and it's taken me a long time to polish myself so I'm worthy of other people. And I don't feel less than, but I do feel like a need to grow.
When you were born, Dave, was your father already in the military?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he was in the nose of an airplane when I was born, working on the radar. He came up through the ranks at a time when you go from enlisted to officer, and when he made it
Mm.
to the officer ranks, he was a son of a bitch. I mean, he
Mm.
was,
Oh yeah,
think about the
yeah.
nastiest ass commander that you ever had to deal with. That he was that guy,
Mhm.
Mm.
but
Yeah.
he was really
Mm.
smart and he really understood how to. His logistics skills were just off the charts. He was Admiral McCain's side guy, and he
Mm.
he handled. I mean, he did some stuff that was amazing. They mapped the ocean bottom during that time in the 50s.
Ooh.
And they also had the Cuban Missile Crisis. And he's in the middle of all. He was in military intelligence, so he was like, I got the best of the structure and the worst of the morality because, well, you know what I'm saying. I don't have to explain it too much, but it didn't gel with me because my indomitable spirit, I was always leaning towards inclusion and not exclusion. My father was all about excluding, just like my other relatives. They exclude. You know, if you're not in the clan, then you got no say so. You got no vote. And so I think what happens, like Benji's got an indomitable spirit. Sam, you got an indomitable spirit. And when you've got an indomitable spirit, it's going to manifest in many different ways. And Benji had his experiences to get him to where he is. You've had yours to get you where you are, and I've had mine to get me to where I am. And right now, in this day, right now, today, the three of us are sitting here after that decades on the planet of experiencing all the turbulence that this planet has to offer, but also all three of us have seen the beauty that this place has to offer. And we tend to go, I think all three of us are more inclusive than we are exclusive. And I think that's the difference between a lot of people. And like I said, the way I see the mankind from my position, having been on two of the three planes, is about 70% of the population are always permanently locked in story. And then there's about 30, about 20, say 25% of the population that are in the estuary between just dark, heavy vibes to maybe starting to wake up a little bit. I would say you guys are in that estuary with me. We're in that middle ground. And then there's that 5% that have transcended. They've balanced their mind and their hearts and their bodies to the point where they've transcended this plane, and they see the universe, and they are now universal beings and not human beings. And those people we can aspire to. I know I will never make it there, but I'm perfectly happy with being semi-woke. I'm good with that.
Yeah, but we have many lifetime to get there, though. That's the
I
point,
agree with
right?
that. I do
Yeah,
agree with
that's the point. I mean, this is back to that book, Jonathan Living Siegel.
that.
There's so many lifetime that you can go through to become Jonathan. But Jonathan was one of those unique that can go in one lifetime to be Jonathan. That's okay. That's Jonathan. I think all of us have the seed to be that. It's just take a different road to get there, and it's okay to take a different road.
Yeah.
And the destiny is going to be the same, and that's the thing. When you were younger, for me, when I was younger in my 20s, that was not an option. I got to get there fast.
Yeah,
Not
me too.
anymore. Not anymore. It's
Same with
it's
me.
yeah, it's not that about that anymore. And so this part is because it's funny. This is part when I learned all this part was because when I did my marathon training, I always want to go to the race. The race was only like 6 hours. Like the 12 weeks of training was that communion with your teammate,
Hmm.
the friendship that you build,
That was the journey.
a journey that was so much more important than the ending result of 6 hours of just nothing, right? Because because that was just fish line. But the journey, you waking up in the morning, complaining about you. And my friend, she would pick me up at 6 in the morning to pick me up. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't go.
Yeah.
And then when I go there, I ran like a demon, right? And he's like, "How are you like this? Like you just like such a baby, and yet you're just killing us right now on this, 10, 12 mile run, right?" It's just like one of those things where that what, that was our relationship, that was our story together, and we always have that amazing. And I did 3 training like that, and every one of those stories was beautiful in a different way, you
Sure.
know. And so that was the whole thing. Same thing with our life here on this plane. It's like it's definitely, I know for me, this is like the hardest life I've lived so far. It's like a workout gym right now with me. But when I'm done with this gym workout, I'm going to be so
You could be
strong.
You'll be a son of a gun, huh?
And be
Hey,
so strong.
are you gonna get those people back though? Are you gonna get those people who are that slowed you up along the way? Are you gonna get back at them? You
No.
ever feel like
Why would you want to be tied to their story?
Yeah.
You're dead weight.
Yeah, I agree with that completely with like David. That's just like, you know what? Part of it is my fault because I hooked them, right? You know, it's like
Mhm.
it's like some you go fishing and you hook into some stupid limb or tree, whatever. That's your fault. You just break the line and let it go. Now,
Yeah, but you got to own it. You got to own your part of it, just like
yeah,
they will not own their side of it. And
yeah,
that's why the break happens, is because they're incapable of owning their responsibility for their actions. The liability is where all people,
yeah,
you can tell what side of the line of morality and ethics someone's on because of that. If
yeah,
someone will not accept their own personal liability, they will never make it to the estuary where they can wake up a little bit and start learning from their mistakes. They'll be
yeah,
stuck in writing a bad story over and over and over and over and over again.
yeah, yeah. And
You have to own yours. If you own your mistakes and you can see others and forgive them on the spot,
yeah,
then you're going to do as good as you can do. But
yeah,
you do not go back. Going back is like, why would you want to step back into a pile of shit? You stepped in it once. Why would you want to go back and put it back
yeah,
on your boot again?
yeah. And that's the lesson, right? And that's actually a Zen thing. You burn the bridges and you move on. You know, you just move forward. Now, I mean, is it easy? No, because you want that closure. But do you
Right.
need that closure? Not really.
I think
Because
you do. I think you
no,
need to. I think with yourself personally, not with
yeah.
them.
Oh, agree.
With yourself, you have to. Otherwise, you're carrying this big bag of garbage behind you. It's heavier and heavier as you get older and older. You have to. You have to, as they say, name your demons.
Yeah.
If you can name your demons, they have no more power over you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to disavow them and get rid of them. You just have to say, "Oh, that's that demon. You sit over there. I don't need you right now." And that's how I've dealt with all my boogeymans. Is I don't try to get rid of them. I don't try to berate myself for doing it. Everything is a lesson. Everything you did wrong and right and nefarious and ugly, all that shit is just what happened.
Yeah.
And if you learn from it, then you've named the demon and you've moved on. You're not carrying that big bag of crap behind you. If you haven't named that demon, you are carrying a big freaking load.
So I want to go back with something that Benji said that I thought was really important and I didn't bring up earlier. Patience. And I want to bring that up because when I was younger, I was stationed in the UK, and I remember I was going to church, and I was playing football, and I remember at church I took a fast, and one of the pastors he said, "Hey, is anybody up here praying for patience?" And everybody's like, I'm praying for, I pray. He said, "Hey, stop it right now." Because if you pray for patience, that means you got to go through something. Do you want to spend a lot of your life or a lot of your time going through something over and constantly and and just waiting for it and pleading and please God? Do you want to do that, or do you want to get ahead? You want to start being positive? So at that point,
good point.
I always said, you know what? I thank God for the patience that I've got. So whenever I got to a position where I knew there might be a little bit of time, might not get it right away, I start saying, well, God, thank you for the patience that I got. Thank you, God, for the patience that I got. Thank you for that patience that I got. Man, and before I knew it, next thing I know, there's people that I start talking to, they say, man, you are patient. And I sit back and go, what? Me? Man, you do not know what's going on inside of my head. I got a million and one things going on. It might not be externally, but internally. Oh, the milk was being churned and the butter was melting, whatever you want to call it. It was going. So, Dave, you always seem to be a pretty stable dude, but I don't know about your patience. Do you feel that you're a patient person?
I think I wouldn't call myself a patient person. I would just say I have allowed things in my life to the point where I don't spend any time on something I can't change. And if I want something, all my plans in my whole life have taken 3 to 5 years to come to fruition. So I'm on a long-term goal on everything to start with. So if that's patience, I just think I have a 30,000 foot view of life, and most people have an hour to hour, blow by blow view of life. And I've sat back and watched a whole bunch of events go by that I could have benefited from, or I could have changed or altered in some way, and I didn't. I think I'm a natural sociologist. I think that's what I had a friend of mine one time tell me, you know what, Dave? He says, you set people up to talk to each other and you ask them the right questions, and then you shut up and you pull the trigger and you let them talk. And he says, and I've never seen you get involved in anybody's tussles except when someone hits you, and then you're pretty fast. But I thought about that. You know, so I am a natural sociologist, not because I don't know. It's because I am genuinely curious about other people. I do genuinely care, and it breaks my heart when someone is destroying themselves with whatever. But I've also been a heavy drug user for many years, for decades. I've also been I've never been a pervert or a beater of children or a beater of women. I've never struck a woman, and I've never beat up a child. So I feel like I've made it that far. That was cool. I can live with everything else I did. But if I had forced myself on a woman, or if I had damaged a child in some way intentionally, I don't know if I could live with that. I don't know how I would overcome something like that. But patience, going back to your question, am I patient? Now I am. I can say probably I'm a very patient guy, because I don't get upset and I don't jump to conclusions, and I don't let my imagination run wild when something isn't happening the way I want it to. I just stop and put it on the shelf and see, okay, I'll wait until that other person contacts me and see where they're doing. And that seems to work for me. I can let people be who they are. I can let long periods of time go through a project when I'm trying to get it done and they've got a part to do and they're not doing it. I just go, okay, that project now is on the shelf and I'm going to just start this project and I'll bring that in. Mm-hmm. So I've usually got 3 to 6 projects I'm working on at all times. So that works really good. I found that actually, if you just relax and you don't try to direct traffic and make that schedule that you want to happen, it's natural. It's almost like the energy waves are going the way they should be. This one gets finished when it needs to. This one's getting finished when it needs to. These people come in when you need them. If you had done it sooner, they wouldn't have been there. And it's synchronicity. And I think part of the synchronicity, that is patience. Patience is having the wherewithal to allow the universe to manifest what you are trying to manifest, because we're all manifestors. Most people that are down here in the 70% that are stuck in story, they manifest the same bad vibes over and over again, because they keep saying, I'm not worthy, I'm no good, this isn't going to work. And the universe goes, okay, here's another thing you can do that'll prove that you're not worthy. Oh, here's another thing that won't work. And the universe just keeps handing you the stuff that you're manifesting. The ones in the estuary are starting to go, well, I want to manifest this good thing. It's beneficial to a lot of people. I want to bring more people in that I can benefit with what I've learned. And the universe just does it. It gives it to you. And once you're transcendent, you're not worried about such things, because you're in contact with the Godhead, and you don't, the earthly things don't mean much. They're too slow.
So I want to ask the same thing to you, Benji. Being that you are now, I don't know, dare I even say, are you corporate? Do you consider yourself a corporate worker? Or no. So with what you do you still have the ability to be patient, or is it about cranking out business and turning over new clients for you right now? What is it for you?
It's more discipline now, right? I still don't have patience. But I have more discipline.
When you say discipline, what are you talking about? Does that equate to patience?
Not particularly. I mean, because I still go through the process and things like that, but I know how to wait a little bit more to see where things go, right? Things like that. Now, business is different. I mean, I work for business, I work for corporate and things like that. Sometimes I take a regular job, but sometimes I do contract work. Sometimes I do all that. But the last few years, I just do contract work on my own, do my own thing. So these are things that require both patience and discipline, where that before I would try to push to close a contract, try to close this and that. Now I just have to discipline. And it's like I allow the universe to flow through. If that's meant for me, then it's great. If not, then move on, right?
Mhm.
The question is are you going to have faith in the universe or what it's trying to do you? So
Yeah.
when I have no patience, I force a manifestation, which we all can. Things
Hmm.
work always sideways, right? So
And it
so
falls
I've
apart
learned,
quickly.
yeah. So you learn like, you know what, that didn't go well, but sometimes that's a human thing we do because our ego said we can create, right? So the question for everybody in this world too, like, do you want to create from a place of ego, or do you want to create from a
Mm.
place of love?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's what the discipline come in. You learn to love.
Benji, do you have a protege?
Um, I don't really do too much, but I like people like the Tony Robbins of the day, but I follow kind of like leadership and see what works for me, and I take from them, right? There's some
Hmm.
things that like Tony Robbins does that I like. I also like, even like Michael Jordan. I like certain thing about Michael Jordan. I like certain like Larry Bird. I mean, I like his certain thing he does.
Yeah.
I'm a big sport guy. I love Ali. I love Muhammad Ali. He was a great, not just an athlete,
Human
like
being.
human being, but he was a great human being, right?
He
In
was
general,
absolutely.
and so people don't understand how much he sacrificed to do what he did. Because my stepdad was military, my stepdad hated Ali because he didn't want to go to the war, and I'm sitting here going, he made a point. I'm like, I'm in war right now in my hometown. Why
Yeah.
do I want
I
to go to
remember that talk.
Vietnam to
Hmm.
go fight somebody that didn't hurt? And so these are things I'm sitting here going, you know, and Jesse Owens, the Munich, Germany, he represented United States. They treat him like a king over there. He came back. You got nothing here.
Yeah. He was denigrated.
So so I was not at that level, but I was a star kid. I was that rock star kid and what I was doing. They used me to get to that point.
Mm.
And but
Hmm.
when the show is over, you know this, I'm just a pet in their house.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's a hard lesson.
Wow. So, well, again, with that being said, is there someone else? Now, I know you sold a lot of yourself in with your
Hmm.
your in law, or not your in laws, but your ex's
Hmm.
kids.
Hmm.
You sold a lot into them,
Yeah.
and financially, time is money too.
Mhm.
So, do have you when you communicate with them? Do you try to pass on these nuggets of information in life, or do you just try to help them get ahead? I mean,
Yeah,
how does that work?
it's very, very, very simple. I wait for them to ask the question, right?
Mm,
And I have a daily engagement with them and say, okay, let's go dinner, let's go do this, let's go that, and we talk and I listen, right? And these are things. That's what I kind of do. I don't particular into that kind of like mentorship and pressure because this is the thing. I was a I was hungry. I want that drive. I find people that I want to grow. They have to be that. I can't teach you that will to grow. So when
Yeah.
I was a
You know.
protege with all these other people, I would go with them, do whatever they asked me to do. When I was with Tony, it was the same way. I have no idea. Like I'll do it, but the whole thing is, but for them, for me to kind of force myself on them, that's not gonna work. They
It
gotta
doesn't.
find that their pattern. They gotta find that pattern that they're gonna be comfortable with. And, different than people that sing, Dave. Right? There's a certain range that can go through. You want to push them a little further, but not that much further, right?
Yeah.
There's
Exactly.
certain
You
people.
want to help.
Yeah, exactly.
mm,
And so
mm,
one of my coaches was one of the great coach. His name is Coach Bolin, and he knew that I was a talented kid, but he also know that you can't push me very hard either. But he
mm,
would go, okay, I know you could do better. But he would go to other people. He'd be screaming and yelling at other people, but he won't do that to me. So
mm,
you gotta know who you are, and you gotta know your
Mm.
people. So my
When you're
kids,
innovative and
yeah,
talented, the coaches recognize it.
yeah, and my kids know that when I say I want to go dinner with you, it's something we gotta talk about. They
mm.
make time.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, and then this is why I give them books.
Yeah,
okay.
that's a great way to do it. That's a great way to do it.
So in essence, that leadership thing, it's about learning to read a room. It's about learning to read the
Oh
highs and
yeah.
lows. It's
You read a
about
room, you know how to read human psychology in whatever room you're in. You can weave yourself all the way through that and accomplish your goals easily. And everybody thinks you're a great guy because you didn't hurt anybody. You brought their talents in, you gave everybody credit, everyone wins a little bit, and you get away clean.
Yep.
mm,
And you know where that come from? It came from I was in the jungle trying not to get like eaten up by the tiger because
Get
that
eaten, yeah.
awareness was there. It's like you walk
Yeah.
in that jungle, you're like, okay, which thing is going to eat me? Which one I gotta run from?
mm,
Yeah, yeah.
mm.
It's knowing the
Wow,
room for sure.
awesome.
So Sam,
So
wait a minute. Sam, wait
yeah,
a minute.
sure.
You never defined to you what is your leadership. What do you mean by leadership?
You know, the big thing that I got from Benji was to me was the patience. Um, I
Mhm.
had to be very patient coming up. Learning to lead, I think, takes a lot of patience. My father was a leader. He was a heavy-handed leader. He was a leader that would take you out in the backyard and beat you up
That was my
and straighten
dad.
you out. And
Right
then,
now.
we got peace. You know, if you got a problem with someone, you take them out and you put them hands on them, and then we can get a solid base and start working. I I learned that. I've used that technique,
Me
and
too. Me too.
I use it in law enforcement against a couple of people that I've worked with. I've been I had to go through the carpet over a couple of times, over a couple of incidents. I think it's like what I said earlier about reading the room. Sometimes you got to kick ass, and other times you got to back up. You got to read that room and tell that guy, hey man, like I was for 15 years here in San Diego. I was what was known as the point man. They have never had no one that did it as long as I did. Point man is the first man when we have a riot. I'm the first one in with the shield, and I'm the last one out after we dragged whoever out. So I had to pick my team, and I had to figure out who was strong enough that I needed to have my back, and also I had to be able to read them. There are some guys that just want to get in there, just want they think going into prison and fighting, kicking ass is fun. It's not fun. It isn't fun. So I don't want that guy. I want that guy who's actually got a little compassion about him. Now we got to get something done, but you got to be able to know who it is that's on your team and how they are
Mm.
going to act under pressure
And you
because
got
you
to
don't
keep the
know.
peace with the natives too.
Yeah. So it's reading the room. It's being patient because I got a guy. He seems like he's really ready. I'll show him. I got to be patient. So I got to see what's going to happen. I got to run through certain scenarios with them. We can train all day long, but when it comes down to it, you never know how a person's going to act under fire.
Mhm.
So
True.
patience for me is something that was been a blessing. And I told you, I was the first one in my family to leave at 18, and that lesson that I told you that pastor spoke that hit me like a ton of bricks, and it's still something that still sticks with me today. What you pray for, what you ask for, first thing you got to be receptive for it. You got to be open and receptive for it. If you ask and you pray for certain things, you got to be ready for it. Like, okay, if
It's
I'm
never going to
asking
look
for
like what you think it's going to look like either. So
yeah,
you've got to be
yeah,
really open to what it looks like.
right. And then again, it's reading that room, reading that person, reading that scenario, and saying, okay, this is what I got to do. I need this way. I need a little bit more from you guys this time. Hey, when I'm busting in this door, I need you guys to push me this way. This way. This is happening. We're moving to the right. You got to read the room and read those people. So that's my um I also, let me see, being quiet has helped me out a lot. Being patient, being quiet, and just being observant. And also, probably one of my biggest things for leadership for me is being curious. You mentioned it earlier, Dave. Being very curious about other ethnicities, being curious about how a person acts, watching how they act when they got money and when they don't have money. Seeing how a person is when things are going good for them and when they're not. That all it's all part of the thing you got to put together to get this picture. And then I can say, hey, shut up, go over there and do it. Or, hey man, look, I don't have time to tell you right now. Can you just go over there for a moment? You know, there's a difference that I got to do based upon all the variables that I put into that little box, and then I use it. So learning how to read the room is where it's been at. So there we go. An hour is gone. We've done it again. Look how quick time goes. And we just barely cracked the seal on that bottle right there. So we had a good time and great conversation. This is another good one that we've done. I appreciate your time, all you guys, for coming in here. And again, maybe next week we can get the other guys in here. Yes. I know Gordon's got some things going on. He's got an app that he's going to be releasing pretty soon. I think he's on version 2 or 3, and he might put it up into our group chat so that we can actually stay a little bit more communicated and actually make more use of putting your music out there, Benji, like you've been doing, and putting and actually opening it up so it's more social. And probably in a couple of weeks, I want to open up and start dropping off some of the clips on what we're doing and what we have done with this series, so that people can start seeing what we're doing. And then I'll eventually start dropping off 1 or 2 shows, and we'll at a time, and we'll go from there. So we had a good one. Thank you guys for participating, and we will end it right here. This has been a great conversation, and I want to try to find a good way to end this, and I'm going to catch it in probably another week or 2. Yes. But I want to end up by saying something like, hey, I hope that we bridge the vision for you today, because that's exactly what we're here to do here at Bridge Visions of this podcast. Yeah. And we want everybody to be inclusive in this whole thing, and we want everybody to be able to share and learn to read the room with each other and go from there. All right. So next week, we'll try to get one locked in for next week, and we'll find another subject. This was a freestyle weekend. I'll try to get something else next time, but subject matter before we get to it. But thanks for showing up, guys. I appreciate it, and have a great day. Until the next time.
Thank you,
y'all. Cheers.
Peace and love to both of you.
All right.